How's it going, everybody? It's Pilot Flame, and we are back with another video. Notice I didn't say FPL because we're going to be doing a different series, which I like to call Tactics Talk, and that's going to be on Sundays in replace of the gaming videos, because I think that, you know what, we should have a little bit more football-oriented talk, whether it's FPL or just football in general, and we're going to be looking at some of the key fixtures over the next few weeks, so I'll usually pick one at a time and kind of go over it on the Sunday or Monday or whenever I feel that it is, right to do so. So in this case, we're doing Manchester City versus Liverpool in their 1-1 draw. That was at the Etihad in game week 8. And I'll probably look to do the City versus Spurs game in game week 9 and kind of pick basically the marquee fixtures and kind of see, how things went down. And depending on which points I want to kind of look at, we'll go through all the key decisions. In this game, there was only 3 real decisions for me. Was how City won the penalty, Liverpool winning their penalty, and City's first goal, and then obviously the general kind of tactics involved for the start of the game and how it transitioned throughout it. But if you're gonna like this series, which I hope you will, because it is brand new and I think it's gonna be quite interesting because it kind of feeds into what we're looking for in FPL and where players are going to be positioned, make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. It's not just going to be videos like this, it's going to be a lot of FPL videos as well, but I think it's all related in terms of what we're looking to get out of FPL, maybe some potential things that we would not have necessarily seen unless broken down in isolated incidences. And make sure to leave a comment down below as to which game you would like for me to do going into game week 9. So most people are probably going to choose City versus Spurs because that's going to be the kind of marquee fixture, but we can do other games rather than just kind of like the big 6, as it were, going head to head. And make sure to turn those notification bells on so that you can get the content as soon as it is readily available. And give us a follow over on Twitter and Twitch, PilotFlame226 on those platforms. We will be doing our preview stream on Monday, which will be tomorrow by the time you see this video, and that's going to be at 8:30 p.m. EST. A lot of people wanted me to do it a little bit later so they can get involved in the stream, which is nice to see. So without further ado, let's go to the tactics board. So this is going to be the setup that we're going to have. We're going to have our tactics board kind of laid out with the lineups in the first basic set of discussion points, and we're going to just kind of move the players around, so it's a little pretty cool. You can kind of move these players around. You can kind of draw runs they're going to be making, which we're definitely going to be doing a lot of. You can even have the little football involved to say this is the path of which way the ball went, which is quite nice. So yeah, we're gonna take a look at the lineups here. So off the start, we had Ederson in goal and Alisson in goal, respective for Liverpool's team. Trent Alexander-Arnold, Matip, Gomez, Robertson, Cancelo, Laporte, Diaz, Walker. No real surprises there with Van Dijk out. Gomez shifts across to the left center back. Diaz, Laporte, Walker, Cancelo seem to be the back four. Both teams went with a 4-2-3-1 system. Henderson and Wijnaldum, Gundogan and Rodri playing their counterparts on their respective teams in the double pivot. Firmino and KDB playing the number 10 role for either side. Sterling, Torres, Mane, Jota, basically outside forwards or wingers in the system. And then Salah and Jesus playing as the number 9 or in false 9 in most cases. Typically when they were transitioning, though, it didn't really set themselves up like this. You would often see when in transition, quite often you would see Liverpool typically shape themselves in like a 4-2-2-2 type of system, with Jota playing out wide and then potentially drifting in. Mane also doing the same, with Firmino and Salah kind of playing as 2 strikers, and KDB and Jesus more or less doing the same, with Sterling and Ferran Torres holding the width, unless KDB drifted out into this space, which Ferran Torres basically took his position. Sterling would cut in on the inside, allow Cancelo to going around the outside, and Liverpool was doing the exact same thing with Robertson and Mane as well. So you would often see a lot of interchange. It was very tactical, very movement heavy from the two teams. And it was the key positionings of Kevin De Bruyne, who ultimately could have won the game for Liverpool, having missed the, not for Liverpool, for Man City, having missed the penalty that would have taken them 2-1 ahead, as well as the overlap from Robertson getting there their first goal. It was a bit interesting to kind of see how that played out. Mane was more of the talisman on Liverpool's team, and it's actually his press initiation that causes Liverpool to be called out for City's first goal, which we will get into. But overall, I think both teams set up as they probably should have, apart from the fact that Klopp was probably going to go with a 4-3-3 in what people thought. But I think Keita was injured for this game. Fabinho still wasn't fully fit. Oxlade-Chamberlain, I think, is out still longer term. So he went with the man in form. A lot of people were saying, oh, do we play Firmino? Do we play Jota? He said, why not just play both? And he probably figured that Pep was going to go with a 4-2-3-1 with KDB being like the number 10 or shadow striker to Jesus. So he said, I'll just match that and see if we can outmaneuver them. And they definitely did so on the first goal. So this is how the penalty is given for the Liverpool goal. So basically, there's the ball played into the box for Liverpool. Diaz ends up clearing it. It ends up dropping to Wijnaldum out on this left-hand side here. He then plays a pass inside to Robertson, who picks up the ball out on the left flank here. Kevin De Bruyne goes to address Wijnaldum, but the ball is quickly played on by Wijnaldum, so he doesn't really get the time to basically pick him up. And then basically you're looking for this situation that Liverpool is looking for here. They want Robertson 1v1 with Ferran Torres and Mane potentially able to attack this space in here. So let me just get the yellow pen out. So basically this space here is where Mane wants to basically get inside and where he often wins quite a lot of his penalties. And if he's able to basically beat Walker and Rodri isn't covering this space, which you can see his positioning, just going to clear that off. His positioning here, he's leaving a lot of space in behind him in here. All this space in here is basically wide open for Mane to just kind of dart inside. Just making a pretty simple run, which is effectively what he does, but it's mainly due to the fact that Walker kind of overplays the situation. So Ferran Torres comes to address Robertson. Robertson then picks up the ball. Or it starts to make a run towards it, plays it inside to Mane. Robertson then flies down the left flank with Torres kind of trying to hold him off and get inside. The mistake happens where Walker thinks that Mane is going to come inside with the ball and potentially go around him with it and take the ball this way, or play it into Robertson, who's going to swing across in. But what he actually does is he takes the ball on his right side, pretends like he's going to go that way, and then Walker basically gets sold, comes off this way, and then leaves this massive gap in here for Mane to just drive into, which he does. Unfortunately, Rodri, again, is in a very poor position here and lets him come inside. Salah comes in around Cancelo to go to attack the space. Jota's kind of sitting on the edge of the 18, but there's this massive gap for Mane to just drive into. Walker having to, go to readjust his positioning. Goes in, and then Mane gets fouled basically somewhere around this mark here. And it was very minimal contact, but again, if you're beaten and you go to touch Mane when you're behind him, he's probably going to go down, and in this day and age they're going to give a penalty for that. But the whole setup is basically initiated from the fact that when Robertson has the ball back here and Torres is basically addressing him, and Mane's, kind of just in front of Walker. When Robertson plays the ball in and around Torres and darts off, you think it's going to be a 1-2, and they're going to basically try to alleviate Ferran Torres here. Rodri doesn't see if he sees this type of play go on. The second the ball is played in towards Mane, the first instinct that I would do is basically cut into this space here, or at least that's what he should have probably done, because the only threat, if Mane takes the ball, and let's say hypothetically he just goes and takes the ball and goes line, and you say Walker's going to chase him, Walker's either going to block this cross, or you just have to rely on Diaz and Laporte just stopping Firmino and Salah, and you have basically a 3v2 in the inside here, especially if Gundogan tucks in. Then you have a 5v3 even if Sterling comes in, but a 4v3 is more than enough. Diaz, Laporte, all better in the air than Firmino and Salah. So they should be able to cover that, and you would think Walker's pace should be enough to control Mane. But when he plays the ball in and Robertson gets in around him and Walker kind of gets sold across, Mane comes in, takes the ball in here, and then Obviously, Walker makes a very silly challenge, but if Rodri basically covers the situation, so let's take it back to when the ball is played in. Mane has the ball. If Rodri then sees Walker start to go this way, you know, it is a split reaction decision, so it is a bit difficult to do. But if he sees the second the ball comes into Mane, the only space that can be, you know, quite dangerous is this area here. So if I'm Rodri, I go then try to move and position myself in here. And Pep will probably have told him that as well. And it's just a situation where if Mane tries to drive inside, then you have a situation where Mane can stand him, Rodri rather, can stand him up here, and then maybe Mane has to take the ball and then recycle it back to Henderson, who then plays it out to TAA, and then Sterling can go and press and or whatever, and then they can control the situation. But that's pretty much how it kind of went down. Robertson's run was intelligent. Walker mispositioning in terms of like trying to guess which way Mane is going to go, which ends up going inside, more direct towards the box, and then Rodri not covering this space in here is what ultimately causes the situation to unfold, and Liverpool ultimately get a penalty, and then Salah slots it away as per usual. So one of the next talking points that I kind of want to go over is the press by Liverpool, which actually ends up being their downfall versus Manchester City when they go to get their first goal of the game, making it 1-1. So basically Rodri is in possession with the ball here. He then passes the ball into Ilkay Gundogan, who is surrounded quite heavily by a bunch of Liverpool players. Gundogan quickly, so it's basically a pass into him, one touch back to Rodri, and then Rodri shifts the ball over to his right foot. Now, Klopp must have a system where the second Rodri gets the ball or receives the ball, that's the trigger for the press, because the second he does that, Salah immediately goes to press Rodri. And then you also see on the bottom part of the screen, you can just barely see, you see Mane then press ahead to go to try to stop Ruben Diaz's pass eventually out to this right-hand flank. Firmino then kind of lackadaisically kind of puts pressure in this space as well to potentially cut off the pass. So the ball from Rodri is then played to Diaz. Firmino comes in, Mane comes in here as well. Salah kind of goes to continue the press as well. And then what happens is Diaz then just returns the ball straight back with a very, very good pass back to Rodri. So then you have this situation where you have Salah, Firmino, and Mane all basically not able to basically close down Diaz, who, you know, under pressure makes quite a good pass. Then Rodri starts to come inside a little bit here. Salah trying to make his way back. Henderson then pushes forward to make sure that Rodri can't advance. Rodri has the ball on his left foot, shifts it over to his right, and then now that Mane is out of position, the ball gets shifted over with a great crossfield pass by Rodri into Walker, which is where the start of the first goal kind of, you know, transpires. But it all stems from the fact that when Rodri had the ball, 1-2 inside, or basically one quick pass into Gundogan, who passes immediately back, triggers the press by Salah. Mane then he leaves this space here, moving from his position, goes towards Diaz. Diaz then comfortably passes it back to Rodri, who makes a little bit of headway before being somewhat met up by Henderson, and then he shifts it out into this like you know start of the final third for City with Walker on the ball. And then basically it just kind of progresses from there with Ferran Torres, and how basically Kevin De Bruyne picks up the ball in the half space, which we will see now. So as the ball gets switched out to the right-hand side here, we have Wijnaldum, who's desperately trying to get over in position here. He needs to basically address this situation because of the fact that Mane cannot cover. He can't make it back in time. Walker's too quick, and Mane is already out of position. So as Wijnaldum comes across to go to cover, Kevin De Bruyne, very smart of him, kind of just drifts off and drops into this space. Ferran Torres looks to go to make a run into this space here. So Ferran Torres looks to potentially get in behind and kind of go in and around, making like a looping run in behind Robertson. Robertson is aware of the situation and does get pulled over just a little bit, so as Torres goes to make that run. And then basically what we have is a situation where Gomez is somewhat isolated because Gundogan actually also at the same time when Torres starts to make that run and Kevin De Bruyne is about to receive the ball, Gundogan then sees the fact that, well, Wijnaldum's across the other side of the pitch. He knows if he makes this darting run here, it's going to be basically a decoy to the front post because Walker is good enough to play the ball into that space. So what basically transpires is the following. Gundogan makes the run into here as the ball is played into inside into Kevin De Bruyne. Wijnaldum obviously doesn't get it across in time. The ball is played in. Robertson then has to follow Torres, who eventually ends up out on the right-hand side. Gomez is then kind of isolated in this situation. Matip is sliding across because he sees Gomez is, you know, in a position of vulnerability. Trent tucks inside as Jesus starts to make his venture in there. And then what we see happen is Gundogan makes this run here, cutting in front of Gomez. Gomez kind of looks to see if he can potentially block him, and Matip kind of gets baited across in a sense and plays a little bit deeper. And what eventually happens is Kevin De Bruyne, after the run is being made across, he dribbles it up a little bit. Gundogan's coming in. Kevin De Bruyne sees that. He goes to pass. Gundogan cuts in front. He waits. Then he slips the ball into Gabriel Jesus into this space because Matip is, again, looking to cover. Both him and Gomez are basically looking at Gundogan and not necessarily looking at where the ball could be played in behind them. Almost ball watching in a sense. Trent is aware of the danger, so he goes to cover Jesus when the ball is received to him. The problem is that Jesus' touch, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but if it was a brilliant touch. He touches the ball from his right foot into this space into here. Trent isn't fast enough to get to the ball or get basically, goal side of Jesus. Matip cannot cover across. Alisson rushes out, and then Jesus ends up finishing in the bottom corner. So that play all stemmed from the fact that Mane went to go basically press Diaz when Rodri did the 1-2 inside with Gundogan. Played it back, switched out to Walker's side, and then basically stemmed from there. So Wijnaldum, knowing that Mane was out of position, had to come across, which left a big space in this half space here for Kevin De Bruyne to make that pass inside. Gundogan's dummy run pulls Gomez and takes the attention off of the real threat, which is Jesus, and basically plays a quick pass after that dummy run straight into Jesus. Jesus' touch is either fortunate or very brilliant, one of the two, you decide. And basically allows for a one-touch finish into the bottom corner. Overall, a very well-worked play and basically a prime example of how Manchester City used their possession to just basically pull one player out of position and basically ultimately get either a very good chance or a goal out of it. So the last play I want to highlight here is how Manchester City are able to quickly transition and take the opposition by surprise. In this case, it is obviously Liverpool in this game, but they do this quite heavily when they go to do their form of targeted press. Now, Walker is a very quick player and is able to jump on top of players quite easily, and he's able to basically dispossess Robertson as they go to attempt to do a quick 1-2 again around Ferran Torres, which higher up the pitch would have left Mane all of this space in behind to run into. It would have forced Diaz to come across. Laporte would then have to watch out for Firmino in this space, and you probably bet Salah is going to be darting towards the penalty spot. You have Jota, who's basically unmarked in this position in central midfield, as Gundogan has eyes on the play over here. However, Walker is able to get to the ball and dispossess Robertson. Mane is then again caught out of position, as is Robertson in this case. So what happens is basically the play is then progressed quite quickly. The tackle was made by Walker. The ball then transitions towards Ferran Torres, who picks up the ball. De Bruyne, immediately assessing the situation, sees that there is this gargantuan space which is being vacated by both Robertson and Mane, and Jesus is picking up a smart position in like this false 9 position to potentially receive a pass. Gundogan is also picking up a very good position here as well. It is a very attacking position, so if the ball was ever played in behind to Mane, he would have to rush across. Roger would have to rush across, which would leave potential cutbacks to the top of the 18. So what happens? So De Bruyne then makes his way into this space here. Jesus is then darting more or less towards the penalty spot. Matip then follows. Gomez comes across to address KDB. Sterling also makes a run into this similar space. TA comes in around the back side to protect, and Gundogan ends up looking to go to the basically to occupy the top of the 18. So what does that look like in transition? So the ball gets played into Ferran Torres. KDB then goes to collect the ball. It's played past Wijnaldum. He then picks the ball up. Torres then continues an inside run. KDB then takes the ball, driving. Gomez eventually comes across and picks up, a position just on like the corner-ish of the 18. KDB ends up being in this position. Wijnaldum then has to basically rush back, following Ferran Torres, who's making his way here. Jesus again coming across. Matip comes across to basically kind of cut them off. Sterling comes into ends up being in like this space as well, with Trent having to rush back to get into this, this sort of position. And then Kevin De Bruyne, as per normal, goes to look to swing in potentially like a deeper cross towards the back post to kind of, put it in a dangerous area in either this space, or he could potentially have played one low and in along, like on the ground for Jesus to potentially make the darting run in here, and then see if he can nick it in to the near post there. We will never know what actually happened, because the ball ends up getting cut off because of the handball by Gomez. So Kevin De Bruyne goes to swing the ball in. Gomez has his arm extended from his body. I think it's still a bit harsh because you can't run without using your arms, in my opinion, because I don't know if there's anyone who's very good at running without their arms like this, and they look like a sardine out of a sardine tin. It's just very difficult to not be able to keep your balance or run with any form of pace without using both your arms and your legs, especially your arms mainly for, balance as well. And it's a bit harsh. There was also one in the Leicester game that was a lot closer. It was more around like where Gomez is now, and KDB was like here. It was very close, but this was a little bit further away. But again, if I'm running like sideways like this, trying to like strafe across, and my arms out like this, and Kevin De Bruyne, who hits the ball with quite significant pace, it's very difficult to pull your hand out of the way. I mean, the ball probably leaves Kevin De Bruyne's foot and travels maybe 10 yards, and probably the same speed as it takes a Major League Baseball pitcher to throw the ball from the mound to home plate, which is normal fastballs, I think, are around like 0.4 seconds or something like that. So that reaction time is a bit crazy. And this is with a lot bigger ball. And it's quite difficult to do when your natural movement is running and using your arms. So a bit tricky on that. But that's basically how it all basically came about. And it ended up actually transitioning initially from a throw-in that was on the halfway line, or just over the halfway line over here. It ends up basically being played around and whatnot, and then it ends up coming across. Liverpool have the ball with Robertson, who then tries to pass the ball inside to Mane, and then who tries to receive a quick 1-2, and then Mane gets the overlap, but it was thwarted by Walker. And then Kevin De Bruyne was quickly into the space, which was left by Robertson and Mane, which is not often something that you see teams be able to do, considering that Robertson and Mane are typically quite good defensively, whereas Trent Alexander-Arnold and Salah haven't been so, mainly Trent in 1v1 scenarios. So it was actually quite interesting to see that both of Man City's goals eventually come from Mane/Robertson, or that left-hand side being dragged out of position. In both cases, Gomez basically gets put in a bad situation. So in this case, he has to go address the cross, and he happens to handball it. In the other situation, he basically gets caught between a rock and a hard place with the Gundogan run for the first goal. But yeah, that's the tactics overview for Man City versus Liverpool. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Tactics Talks. Make sure to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed the video and potentially want to see more videos of this series. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. It is greatly appreciated. And turn on those notification bells on so that you can get the content as soon as it is readily available here on YouTube, as well as drop a follow over on Twitter and Twitch. It's PilotFlame226. On those platforms, we will be doing our preview stream, as mentioned at the beginning of the video, 8:30 p.m. EST over on Twitch for the Gameweek 9 preview, and we will be back for the deadline stream as per normal, 1 hour before the deadline. Make sure to check out the pinned comment down below to see the exact times just for confirmation. That's usually where I put the times, and if there's any changes, make sure to check out Twitter, because that's where any updates will be available, as well as when we go live and post our content for our various different platforms. Thanks for watching, and until the next one, take care.